in the back of your head that you otherwise feel uncomfortable asking anywhere else, okay? We're your big bros, big sisters, whatever you want to call us. We're going to give you the real. So if you give us the real questions, we'll give you the real answers. Essentially, how we think about it, this is the stuff, like these are the questions that your mother would pinch you under the table because you asked it out loud, right? We want those types of questions. Does that feel cool? Y'all lying to me. All right, we'll see. We'll see. Let's start with this, though. Let's get warmed up. Let's do a selfie. Y'all cool with that? Y'all want to jump out there and let's knock it out with a quick selfie, and then we'll get this thing going. You can't have somebody else take a selfie for you. We all friends. We got this. I have every one of you in this shot. It's a lot. I don't know who's over there. Y'all ain't even trying. Y'all know what the deal is. It's okay. We remember y'all were here. All right, ready? 1, 2, get them. 90 to... Listen, I'm too old. I'm mad young. Listen, y'all ain't going to tech shame me out here. I got my hands in the way. Shit. Now I got Siri. All right, someone under 21, because I'm like 21.
Like 23, right?
What? Close enough. Better? Better? How we doing? All right. 1, 2, 3, get them. I'm not in it. Wait, 1, 2, 3. All right. I feel like we were engaged, they were not.
They were not engaged.
That's how I know y'all were fronting when you said cool. Thank you for being engaged. All right, cool. So we got selfies out of the way. We've got food, so we're going to break bread, and let's do the real stuff. This is Shamir. She's going to moderate our conversation, but why don't we go through and do some intros and go from there.
So my name is Shamir Faison Bernard. I tackle inclusion and diversity at MailChimp.
Hey, I'm Eric Muntz. I'm the Senior Vice President of Technology at MailChimp. I run all of the engineering teams. I've been here for 9 years. So those questions your mom would be pinching you for, I know lots of answers, so ask them.
What up? I'm Daniel Waith. I'm Director of Quality Assurance. I've been in the industry for 15 years, have quite a bit of experience, and I'm looking forward to chatting with y'all.
Hello, I'm Ethiopia Rab. I'm a software engineering manager. I've been in tech about 15, 17 years, so I'm ready.
And I'm Wesley Hall. I'm the manager of marketing analytics for MailChimp. So I'm responsible for doing a lot of data collection, so I know a lot about all of y'all. And happy to answer any questions that you have.
Hi, I'm Natalia Williams. I am the Senior Director of Project and Product Management for MailChimp. I've been at MailChimp for a year come next Monday. And I'm so excited to speak with you guys. You're way more together than I ever was at your age, so give yourselves a hand of applause.
True story. So we're going to start off with the tough stuff. There's a lot of wisdom sitting up on this panel, a lot of seasoned professionals. We'll start with you, Daniel. Describe maybe your downfall, like a challenge that you had. Your first failure, if you will. Okay, well, you don't have to.
I mean, it's just a really hard question.
I know. And how did you come back from it?
Talia got it?
Yeah.
Let's do this.
First professional failure?
Yes, and how did you come back from it?
All right, I have two. So I was probably 2 years into my career, and I had a really big project that I was working with 2 other folks on. We were trying to launch our company's intranet, and the 3 of us were just doing our own thing. Like I was over there designing. Is this better?
Closer to your mouth.
I'm literally going to eat the mic.
No.
No.
She told me to eat the mic. That's what she said, eat the mic.
No? Is there any, is that better? Nothing? That sounds better.
Keep talking.
Okay. So we were, oh yeah, that's much better, okay. So we were all working in our own silos. I was designing, and then we had 2 developers off coding, and then we would occasionally come back together and figure out that none of us realized what the other one was doing, and so I would design and say, okay, why doesn't this look like what I designed? And they're like, well, I was off coding and doing my own thing. So like togetherness and teamwork was kind of the theme there, because eventually what ended up happening is that we literally spent 24 hours. I slept under my desk in order to make a deadline, which none of that needed to happen if we had just talked more and not felt like we individually had to be the hero and do our own thing. So that was kind of my first kind of professional learning.
So how did you come back from it?
So we actually did, before stand-ups were, does everybody know what a stand-up is? Probably not, okay. So a stand-up is a ceremony in the agile methodology framework of software development where the team gets together for 15 minutes, is usually at the beginning of the day, and talk about, like, here's what I accomplished, here's what I'm gonna work on today, and here's some blockers. And we started to do that together, and it wasn't called a stand-up back then. But it was like, hey, let's just check in at the beginning of the day and talk to each other about what you're working on and what are the challenges that you're having so that we're all on the same page. So that's kind of how we figured out how to get past that.
Nice. Eric, I noticed when she said togetherness, that struck a chord with you. Can you talk about your first failure and comeback and why togetherness is so important?
Too close. Can you take hers? You may just take that one. Turn it off.
Hello? All right. My first failure was when I was about the age y'all are and in the situation you're in. My first failures, many of them, were all about getting my first job. I'm very introverted, and I would go to career fairs, and I would be very nervous, and I just sort of walk up and drop a resume and leave, and then be like, why is no one calling me? And so it took me a good bit of time finding my first job. And then after my first job, I moved to Washington, D.C. as the startup I was at failed, and I had to interview in D.C. And I had a series of interviews, about 3 or 4, that all went really poorly. I was very unprepared. I also had a bit of imposter syndrome, so I have a math degree, not a computer science degree. And I was asked really deep computer science questions, things like explain polymorphism and talk about big O notation, things that I couldn't do. And so instead of saying, I can't do those, but let me demonstrate my skills, I just fumbled, just totally failed, fumbled through it. And how I came back is I went and prepared for their interviews. I ended up hiring a recruiter. I think they were called headhunters at the time. I hired a recruiter. They sent me through a series of practice interviews, gave me some material to read just to fill in some gaps. I ended up getting a job. I've never needed to know big O notation or any of those algorithmic things I was asked. I'm a little salty on that. Those are my first failures. It was really hard for me to find a job 20 years ago without a CS degree and being super, super introverted and not knowing how to talk to a recruiter. So I would recommend working on those skills. And then togetherness. So our engineering team has a mission statement. And it is, we give marketers production-ready software designed to help them grow. That's what we do. And then how we do it is we succeed through togetherness, momentum, and pragmatism. And togetherness is just a huge thing on my mind lately. It's been something that I think we've not quite gotten right as an engineering team. We now view togetherness as like just being nice to each other. And what we need to do with togetherness is not have walls. So you can be nice with a wall and like package things up really nicely and put a parachute on it and a love note and drop it over the wall. But if there's no walls, you work together really well, like Natalia was talking about. And it's a thing that's really important to us at MailChimp.
So can I throw a failure in that's not quite a professional one, but a failure nonetheless? So I grew up in Memphis, and when I was a kid, shout out, when I was a kid, I got to go to a summer camp. It was a big deal for me because I grew up in the inner part of the inner city, right, North Memphis. So I never got to go to anything like that. And one of the things that happened was they sent all of us down to this lake, and they split the kids up into what they call sharks and minnows. And sharks was the guys that could swim, and minnows couldn't swim. And the way you did it, you jumped in the lake, and you had to swim down to a port. Inner city kid, I could not swim. But I saw all these guys that went out and did it, and they looked really cool. So I jumped in the water and sank straight to the bottom. A few minutes later, when I finally came to myself and woke up, there was one of the camp counselors. He was standing over me. He was like, son, what in the world were you thinking jumping in this water? And the only thing I could tell him was I was thinking I didn't want to be no damn minnow, right? So that set kind of the stage for how I live my life now. There are a lot of things that I might not necessarily know when I start out, but I'll figure it out even if I have to jump in the water and learn how to swim.
So as you sit here in 2019, your journey, and thinking about really where you started, are you where you thought you would be in 2019? And if not, how did that journey differ from what you expected?
So, I mean, I'm really young, right? Just starting out my career. No? All right, sorry. Whoa, don't lie. They can laugh about that. So a little bit about how my journey deferred. So little told secret is I went to school for to be a youth pastor, actually. And I was studying to be a youth pastor. What? Oh, sorry. And I thought that was what my path was going to be. And after 2 years, I realized that's just not what I want to do, and we were broke, so I had to make a pivot and change. And I had a mentor at the time. I got this random job at a bank, and she told me I should go try for this testing thing. I was like, nah, like I don't understand what it is, but she said you don't have a choice. And I applied for this testing job and got the job, and I've stayed in it for 15 years. But I went from this really niche, specific perspective on life and what my career would be into something that's far more fulfilling. And I often tell people we have to think about our lives in two paths. One is our passions, and the other is our vocation, right? The vocation is a thing you study, figure out really well, you monetize. Your passions is stuff that makes you feel fulfilled in life. And for few, there is a coming together of those paths, but for most, there is a steady bifurcation where these two paths go distinctly in different directions. For me, I allow my passion to still be fulfilled, but I focus mainly and invest a hell of a lot in my vocation so I can use those returns to power my passion. So that's how I've made a shift.
Sure. So when I was in school, I didn't think about what I wanted to be at all. It didn't even really occur to me. This is a big way in the past. There was no internet. There was no Instagram. I was in school as a math major. I knew I didn't work from a computer all day. I have a daughter. I had her in college. And I don't really know where I thought I was going, so I just started doing little things. I worked for a fashion company, so I like design. I helped them with their website, and then I started programming. And where I am today, I definitely didn't see myself going. It's really, you don't really know like where you want to go next, and that's okay. You kind of just keep moving forward. And when I get to a point where I'm no longer happy where I am, then I make a switch. But I'm not a big one on like planning, like in 10 years I'll be CEO, or in 20 years I'll be that. When I was in high school, I actually wanted to be a housewife. And I have like 6 kids. So each time I'm kind of like, well, I'm going to keep working. This is what I do now. But you don't have to have a huge plan. You just kind of have to like go forward and move on in the direction that does make you happy when you realize where you are is not the right spot.
So I actually started off as a computer science major in Memphis at Lemoyne Owen. It's a small HBCU there. And then I transferred from Lemoyne to University of Memphis, where I was a music major. So I thought I wanted to be an engineer, a music engineer, for several years until I found out there was absolutely zero money in music production, except for a small few of lucky people, and I was not one of those lucky people. So I stumbled into, so coding is a lot like music production, especially theory and composition, because there are patterns and there's a kind of rhythm to really well-written code. So I found that kind of similarity between the two, and kind of been happy with the choice since I can keep the lights on now.
Let's see. So can you guys hear me in the back? Yep. Okay, cool. So I actually started out as pre-med, so my parents are still disappointed in me. So that's what it is. But I think what I really liked about just STEM is the degree of logic and problem solving, which was just always something that I loved, even as a kid. My parents would be like, "Go away, you ask too many questions, go read a book." So I really well read. So I think my career has evolved from there. I kind of stumbled into engineering based on, this is so terrible, I'm going to say it, based on who I was dating at the time. And I was like, I want to be an engineer too. And then realized that I was not a good engineer. So I'm glad I realized that early. And then kind of moved into design, and from there, product management. But like 10 years ago, I think I was with a a retail company, a high-end retail company, so I wanted to live the Devil Wears Prada life and then realize that, oh, actually, in a retail company, you just look at a lot of spreadsheets, so that's not really true. But really worked on the e-commerce side and grew to love spreadsheets. They'll hear that from me. I love a good spreadsheet. But the data and problem solving aspect, and kind of cultivated that. And that's what I love about product management, is that you're always trying to solve a customer's problem and figure out what is the best way to get there with a team and making sure that you're all aligned to a goal. So I kind of, like Ethiopia, I kind of moved along, and I think there's like a statistic that in the lifetime of one's career, you actually change careers about 7 times. So that's also to be expected. And so I'm the same way. If I'm not bored, like as soon as I get bored, I will change my direction. But it always kind of lies in like a commonality around logic, problem solving, data driven. Those are the things that I love. And so I'm always aligned to something that actually cultivates those.
I'm going to jump in here just for some of the creatives out there. I have an English degree, and I was pre-law, and I'm a law school dropout. So my parents are pissed. I'm still paying back that student loan. But anyway, I could have never imagined that in 2019 that I would be representing MailChimp from the inclusion and diversity perspective. And I think it has a lot to do with just remaining malleable and just remaining open. To Ethiopia's point, I think that when you have that drive and you're always moving forward, you're always going to find like where you're supposed to be at that moment. And sometimes you're where you're supposed to be for somebody else. It's not always about you. So just understand and be open to those opportunities and be open to pouring into other people just as much as you would like for other people to pour into you. So we're going to shift to some live questions because we're coming towards the end of our time with you. And we want to know what questions you have. So I see a hand in the back, Amy, right here.
Role do you think that product management
Me,
plays into?
Natalia.
Oh, Natalia, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just talked to Christina, so yeah. How much of a role do you think that product management plays into entrepreneurship?
So I know I've said this to a couple of you guys, that the product manager kind of plays CEO of a particular part of the product. And so I think that it's kind of key because there are a lot of skills in product management that aligns to entrepreneurship. So there's the ability to gain consensus, a high degree of negotiation. Like it's not always just about you, and being able to elicit different perspectives in order to make your perspective better. It's about failing fast and motivating a team through failure. So failure always sounds like a bad word, but the faster you fail, the faster you actually get to the right solution. I think that product management, also that degree of logic that I talked about in terms of being able to survey the landscape and be able to make a decision based on what you see in the now. I think also not being a little fearless and being able to take risk and learning from mistakes in order to make yourself better. So I think all of those things directly align to entrepreneurship. And I think those are kind of core and germane to like both areas.
Mics are scary. Do you think that MailChimp being so diverse is a symptom of being in Atlanta, or do you think it's something that you guys separately prioritize? And as a woman of color, this is kind of targeted, do you feel like your opinion's valued in this workspace, or that you're dismissed to some degree?
So I'll take the first part of that question. Was the second part for Natalia in Ethiopia or any of us? I might ask you to repeat it.
Just for me.
Clearly. So I will say that being in Atlanta, it kind of, by default, we're just exposed to a larger diverse population. And knowing that we don't like to rest on that because it's kind of like cheating. We still want to put forth the effort that it takes to be as intentional as possible to expand our reach into different pools of applicants, knowing that there is not a pipeline issue, which is why we're here. Can you repeat the second question?
I feel like their voices are heard and listened to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I got it.
okay,
Don't worry.
Cool, thank you.
So at MailChimp, yes, my voice is definitely heard. For a while, I was one of 2 black women in the engineering department when I started. I think it's about 11 or 12 of us now, so a lot of our voices are being heard. But even then, my voice was heard, and I get a lot of questions about, like, how does it feel to be the only black woman on your team? And this is the first job where I'm not the only black woman on my team in, like, 17 years. And instead of, like, worrying about it, I kind of lean into it. And not like that, like, lean into your work kind of thing, but it's okay to be special. Sometimes if there's 10 people in the room and you're the one people remember, you should, like, use it. Yep. So you should use any advantage you have. So if you're the only black person on your team, that means that when you speak up, everybody remembers who said that. Yep. And so for me, I never mind being the only woman in the room or the only woman on the team, because that means that my voice gets heard double. Even if someone's hearing it and thinking, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about, they still remember what you said. So I don't really worry about my voice being heard. It's more about what I'm saying is actually legit and needs to be heard.
First of all, amen. Good. That was powerful stuff. And I did just want to take a second to kind of, I don't know if it's tooting the MailChimp horn or not, but MailChimp for me, because I've worked in quite a few very large corporate settings, and MailChimp is an anomaly to me when it comes to its intentionalness with diversity. A lot of places will say we want to be diverse, we try to be diverse, but at MailChimp, I think we are diverse, and we live this credo as much as we espouse it to everybody.
Hello, my name is Christabel, and I want to know if your company sponsors international students.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Omar. I'm from the University of California, Irvine. And for those of us just starting off as a software engineering intern that wants to rise into the ranks of a software engineering company, like Natalia, Eric, Daniel, you guys hold senior positions, what advice can you give to us starting off?
Make a portfolio. I'm not in the senior position, but that's like the biggest thing. When you do hiring, if you have a portfolio, it sets you like way above the rest. Have a neat, easy way for us to see your work.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, Omar. I totally concur. I think what you'll find resoundingly, whether it be in engineering roles, or product management, is problem solving is core to everything. So if you can create a portfolio of work that shows how you think about solving problems and display it in a way in which is easily able to be consumed, you definitely win. And continue to do that throughout your career, right? Determine problems, find problems around where you work, solve those problems, and master how to communicate your solve for those problems, and you'll exponentially rise, I think.
If you can, in your internship, try to learn something from people outside of engineering. So product management is a big area right now. Lots of people are very interested in what Natalia does. And so if you can connect yourself with a product manager and learn about product management and become an engineer who could maybe otherwise be a product manager, your options expand greatly. And your ability to have impact on any other team you go to expands greatly. So if you can demonstrate that, that's the type of engineer that people want to hire. People today are hiring engineers who are not the type who say, I just want to put headphones on and stare at my code all day. They want engineers who want to work across functions. So the ability to demonstrate that will set you aside.
Also that education doesn't stop. Continuous education, I think, is key. I'll go back to product managers also have a portfolio. Even if you can't write code, I think showing how you would actually solve a customer problem is key, and I look for that as well. I think also being active in your particular area of interest in terms of community. So be active in the developer community, be active in the product management community. I think that's important too. There are a lot of, in terms of continuing education, a lot of YouTube series, tap into TED Talks. There are good books. Inspired is one that I love. So is the Lean Startup. But just keep learning because obviously technology is ever changing. Our roles are ever changing, and it shows that you're invested when you actually make the time to do that.
And one practical bit of advice, if you, especially for you engineers, LinkedIn profiles are extremely important, but I would also suggest making a GitHub repo. That's a good way to kind of show your skills as well.
Hi, my name is Michael Villarreal. I'm a freshman at St. Edward's University with a major in marketing and a minor in communications, specifically learning how to take interpersonal communication and scale that. My question for each of you is if you could list a problem that has to do with your individual field or topic area, whether it be nuanced or major, and yeah, if I could just hear from each of you on like how you guys see those things. Thank you.
When you, sorry, Michael, when you say problem, just a problem in terms of our specific areas of specialization, or what, can you just be a little
Yes, ma'am, but more specifically towards like the company of MailChimp, like what are things that you guys want to improve in your individual areas?
From a product management perspective, I think it is the being more data informed, and what that means is both qualitative and quantitative data, so understanding the level of impact and the why. So why are people not able to actually complete what they're trying to accomplish in MailChimp? How many? You know, what types of customers are having problems? I think that's something that I'm specifically working on over the next year with my team.
And Natalia's ahead of the curve because my kind of challenge from my perspective is my team is responsible for, and it's hard right now for a lot of people to get the concept of making decisions based on what data is telling you rather than what your gut is telling you. So we are constantly struggle with helping people make that paradigm shift.
For me, it's innovation. So engineers easily get caught up in the loop of getting something out, getting a new feature out. But engineers are creative too, as well as the designers on my team. So it's not actually just engineers, it's the entire team. The processes of how to let them have time to think of new ideas, play around, but also get work done. So with those two things, I'm working on how do you bring those forward, how do you make the right processes for that. But just innovation in general, when you get older, it's much harder to start thinking outside of the box.
That's that tinkering stuff that I know you're excited about. So for my group, there are several things that are top of mind. The one I'll mention here today is taking the work that my team does, which is a lot of work, a lot of good work, and creating more visibility for that. So that's upwards, that's across. I think that MailChimp certainly needs to better understand the value that the quality assurance team is adding. So Eric is my boss's boss, and I need to make sure that my boss certainly understands that value, but ultimately that it gets to Eric, and that Eric understands that value and can talk to that value and spread it around the company for us. And again, that's true across as well. So our peers in product management and marketing all need to understand the value that we're adding. So it's important to think about the work you do, but I think there's a key component that most, I think, often forget, which is how do I communicate the value of that work constantly, and that's something that I'm focused on. Great question.
Anyone back here have questions?
So for me, it's the culmination of all of these things. At my level as a senior vice president, I am really responsible for driving our business forward through technology. We have 3 core values at MailChimp. The first is humility, which we defined to be that we never assume we know what's right for the customer, which is basically everything Natalia said. Creativity is fostering an environment where we do constant tinkering for the parts bin. That's everything that Natalia said. Independence is not being afraid to zig when others are zagging, which is what the other 2 said. So for me, my current problem set is making sure that all of our teams are aligned and working right toward meeting those core values so we can meet all the value we need to for our customers.
Hey, hello. Can y'all hear me? Hey.
Hi.
Hey. So I don't know if this has been asked already, but how many roles do you all have, and how many black people work in your company?
So open roles, you can go to MailChimp.com/jobs or careers. I'm not sure, and you can certainly do the count. We're at almost 1,000 as far as people. I think we've done some rough math. I think we're just over 100 or so black people. We're far more than that?
85 black women.
Okay.
So it has to be
Yeah.
like
So
160.
150 or so black people. We don't have a specific number. I think what's important, though, is to look at this panel, right? You have all black people on this panel holding some significant roles that drive MailChimp towards its key strategic visions. And I think that's key. As MailChimp grows, you're finding that people that look just like you are rising in its in the levels. Yeah, your mama would not be proud. No, your mama would love that you asked that question. It's a great question.
You have to say how many minorities are working in the company, not black people.
He wanted to know about black people. Hey.
Hi, I'm Kalia Sanders, and I attend Winston-Salem State University. My question may be a little off topic. However, I wanted to ask, how will MailChimp use their disruptive, innovative skills to immerse themselves into artificial intelligence and augmented reality for their small businesses that they target?
Hear me. So, yeah, I want to ask. Yes.
Wait.
So as far as AI, we use quite a few data models right now, and a lot of them are based on more machine learning than AI, but it's all about finding patterns and finding what our customers are interested in, not only right now, what they will potentially buy now, but machine learning and AI will tell us what will happen in the future. So we do, and I love to, calm down, sorry. We do a lot. I'll just give you one really quick one. We do a model that's called a diminishing returns model. So if you buy a campaign, for example, and you know that you spend $100 a month on the campaign, right? What you traditionally would do was watch that campaign and see at what point it started to lose money and pull that campaign. Well, machine learning can say this type of campaign is going to work for 6 months. So instead of 7 months, I spend money and lose money on it, I pull it at 6 months and take that money I would have lost and do something else. Okay. So that's the type of stuff we do.
Oh, he wanted.
Oh, Lord.
Drink some water,
MailChimp has a lot of data. So we, obviously we've done email for a very long time. We send roughly 2 billion emails a day. We have seen uniquely over 4 billion email addresses. And we have roughly over 40 billion events that have happened with each of those email addresses. So what we're able to do with that is build a system that does some predictive analysis for small business that can say, if you come in and you've got an audience that looks like X or looks like Y, and you're trying to sell products A and B, here are places that would be a good place to market those. So it's kind of the flip side of what Wes was saying, that we are trying to move towards being more predictive with helping small businesses understand how they can best market to their users. The way I like to describe it today is that typically a user, a small business, and their marketing technology have a staring contest with each other, where they log in, the application has a bunch of functionality, but it just sits and waits for the user to do something with it. And the user knows they have a job to get done, but they don't really know exactly where to do it in the technology, so they just sit there and stare at each other. I think MailChimp is uniquely positioned to end that staring contest and be able to tell users this is what you do with data to be successful marketers.
Thank you, you guys. Hello, my name is Brianna Barnett, and I am a junior finance major at Prairie View A&M University. And my question is, from your experience, how integrated are individuals in non-technical roles in the product development process, and how much do you think they truly understand what happens on the other side?
It is an SAT question. That's a good one. Who wants to talk on this one? You?
Sure. So I lead a product team with a product manager and a project manager. And so on my team, I have I have 20 engineers, but I have maybe 35 people who are not technical. And we are all informed. In fact, the biggest part of leading that team is keeping everybody in line and making sure that everybody is informed, up to a point. Like, we won't discuss like code reviews with a project manager or, well, maybe, but maybe like a researcher or someone who's not involved in that. But we have the daily stand-ups, we have sprint reviews, demos, and really the goal of leadership is to keep everybody informed of what's happening, where the project is, and like where it's going. So like that's the whole goal.
And I think we are doing a better job, to answer your question, from the marketing side, of making decisions about our marketing based on information. Marketers traditionally like to create things on what feels good, but we're trying to, like I said earlier, change that paradigm to where you make more data-driven decisions. And our whole rebranding was based on a whole lot of data, even down to our Cavendish yellow, even. Yeah, our Cavendish yellow, yeah. It was based on, believe it or not, a lot of inputs as to what color would even be more effective for the type of branding we were trying to put forth. So, yeah, there's a lot of information that goes on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, from a product management perspective, just back to the togetherness aspect, it is also our job to make sure that we, as non-technical people, are having those conversations with technical people and involving them in the development of the product vision. So we may start with a product vision and work with a marketer because they understand the market, what our competitive set looks like, what folks who would be potential acquisition targets may look like, and take that and kind of weave that into the product vision. It's also understanding from a framework, a technical framework, and a capability perspective what that looks like in terms of our product vision. So, I wouldn't, and not saying that this is a we versus they, but it kind of, there is no division, I think, from a MailChimp perspective for technical versus non-technical roles. We all kind of work as a team to actually first figure out what problem we're going to solve and then how we're going to solve it. And we really, I think that what's great about MailChimp is that everyone feels personal responsibility to keep each other in the loop as to how that actually evolves.
How you doing? Oh, hi. So my name is Chuma Okoro. I'm a senior at Brooklyn College in New York City.
Brooklyn!
Yeah, Brooklyn. And I was wondering, what types of projects have new grad hires in software engineering worked on in the past, and what technologies do you guys use for those projects?
So from our perspective, we use Google Analytics for a lot of the marketing data, and we've done some amazing, not only competitive analysis, but customer analysis based on that data.
I have a new hire, and they work on the same teams as everybody else. Like, there's no special new hire team. So unless you tell somebody, no one will know that you're a new hire. We do PHP in the back end and Dojo on the front. I'll let someone else talk about the ops stuff.
We're moving to React, though, so don't be scared by Dojo. Yeah, just a huge plus one on what Ethiopia says. We, and interns included, we don't have like new hire projects. And we try to make sure that even, especially with interns, that they're working on things that are going to deeply affect our users and our product. We want interns to go back out to their colleges, universities, wherever they are, and look back and say, hey, look, users are using that thing. See users tweet about it and feel good about the impact that they made. On the infrastructure side, we are using Go a little bit more for our back-end systems code. We are basically a traditional LAMP stack, so we have lots of MySQL. We have roughly 300,000 MySQL databases that we manage. We actually manage our own infrastructure, and we build tools to manage that. We're fully co-located, so there's roughly 3,000 servers across 3 data centers in the U.S. that we manage as well. So lots of good engineering work.
Just shout.
I couldn't hear it. Actually, there's something going on.
So your question, what do we look for in new hires, specifically intern, what skills or qualities? Yeah, I mean, there are three key things that we look at, I think, overall. Humility, independence, and creativity. Those are the things that Eric mentioned earlier. And ultimately, we believe that if you've got those background skills that you need and you bring those three things, then you should really complement us exponentially well or greatly. I don't know if you all have other unique, specific things that you want to share.
One thing we look for especially in my team, is what we call intellectual curiosity. We look for people that look at a thing and say, why does that work that way? And people that like to unwind that type of stuff and figure it out.
That's good. Yeah. Totally stole my answer. I would second that or third that. I think also someone who is, like, we have a motto, listen hard, change fast. So being able to embrace change, which sometimes can be hard for us as human beings, I think that is something that I definitely look for, because that is going to happen.
And just to add to that, I would say emotional intelligence. I think that wraps it all up. There's nothing like self-awareness and just, thinking about other people as much as you think about yourselves. And I think, for professionals of color especially, we have to be more assertive, and we have to make sure that we're seen and that we're heard. But I think that we've all found a really good balance in figuring out how to do that while also not stepping on each other and also not devaluing our teammates.
Which one? Hi, I'm Mercedes Antonia, and my question is, what are some life lessons you learned in college that you were able to apply to the workforce that helped you maybe even transition?
Okay. When I was in high school, I was a social butterfly. When I got to college, I looked around and saw that none of my friends were there. And it wasn't because they were bad friends, it was because we chose different paths. And so I had to figure out, what does that mean for me, and who am I? How do I socialize without my besties? And so that experience left me spending a lot of time with myself, figuring out that, hey, I'm okay. Like, I'm okay with who I am. And it also gave me a lot of time to figure out what I wanted to do. Now that I'm a professional, I feel very comfortable in my own skin. I feel very comfortable saying, hey, I'm an introvert. And I ran out of words today, so I don't want to talk. I'm going to go mind my own business. But also being flexible. Like I told y'all, I failed out of law school. So that was plan A. I wanted to be like P. Diddy's lawyer when he was Puff Daddy. Like, I wanted to do that. And it was not that long ago. But because I don't know. You're so young, you tell us. But when I joined MailChimp, I joined after leaving the trade show business. I decided that I didn't want to work in conferences anymore. I was in an industry where nobody looked like me, and I felt it, and I had no voice. And I knew that I had a lot of skills, and I had a lot in my toolbox that I just didn't want to share with them anymore. And so I chose to find a company whose culture I valued. And once I was there, I said, okay, well, like Ethiopia said, well, what's next? I started out in tech support. And then what was next was working on the culture team. And I was fortunate enough for the company to carve out space for me to do diversity and inclusion work when I was still learning, essentially building the car and driving it at the same time. So I think that experience in college of, not knowing what was next, spending time alone, failing a little bit, and not being afraid of it helped a lot.
So I don't remember undergrad at all, but I do remember in grad school a really good lesson a professor of mine gave me. So I was a math major, mostly because I'm really good at math, and it doesn't take a lot to study for math for me. And I didn't want to do any writing because I'm bad at writing. But when I was in grad school, I had a project, and I thought I could just finish it the last day, Sunday night, day before it was due. I did my normal kind of like coasting through school. I turned it in. It was terrible. So my professor took me aside, and she said, so you're really bright, you're really smart. My whole life I've been hearing that. She's like, but that's not going to be enough. You actually have to work hard. She's like, so you can't coast through life just kind of like doing whatever and hope that your quick wit will like push you through. And that I took to heart because she was aware that I was smart, but being smart or being really talented, you can ask like LeBron or all these other like really famous people, is really the hard work. So I go to work and actually put in real hours of real energy every single day. And that makes a big difference of like where you're gonna go. So you don't have to be the best at computer science or the best coder. It's really about pushing forward and very consistently working at your craft.
And really quickly, the one thing that I learned, especially around my sophomore year, was the world is so much bigger than I initially thought it was. When I was probably even when I was a freshman, I thought everybody went to worship service at 11 o'clock and Bible study on Wednesdays, and if you didn't think like my church did and my family, my deacon father did, that you were going to hell. And I learned that there's all types of people in the world, and that's okay. And even people who don't think like me. When I got my first tattoo, my grandma took me to the altar. She was like, "This boy he's not gonna make it." But I've learned that not everybody has to think the same, not everybody has to look the same and be the same, and that was something that really I struggled with for a long time.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up. We really appreciate your undivided attention. Do you want to give some instructions?
Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We've been super excited for the past couple of months to prepare for this opportunity to talk to you guys. So thank you so much for being here, being present, asking questions, and letting us see your faces, because we really, really enjoyed being here with you all. We're going to do something really quick. We're going to take a picture. If you can get in the center here, we'd like to take a picture with you guys in this room. We know it will be a little bit challenging, but if we can get as many as possible together in the center of the room. If you weren't able to get the black Texcellence pens, the pouches, we have some card holders. We have things to give you. We have stickers that talk about Black Texcellence and being black without permission. So please make sure before you go, you come see us over here, and we'll make sure that you get your pins and your stickers. But for right now, if you can all kind of come together to the center, and we'll take our group picture. If you
No, we're gonna. I think this is easy. And then you guys can stand in the front.
Sure, that's fine. Where's Albrika? Sure. The photographer's right there. She'll be able to tell you exactly.
Perfect. Great. Hi. Can you get some too? Okay.
Yeah. Something.
So can we have the front one down a little bit? Yeah. I think actually I can kind of see it. Yeah.
Niggas even count me out. I'm counting my bullets, I'm loading my clips. I'm writing down names, I'm making a list. I'm checking it twice and I'm getting them hit. The real ones been dying, the fake ones is lit. The game is off balance, I'm back on my The Bentley is dirty, my sneakers is dirty, but that's how I like it. You all on my I'm all in my bag, as hard as it get. I do not store powder, I might take a sip. I might hit the blunt, but I'm liable to trip. I ain't popping no pill, but you do as you wish. I roll with some fiends, I love them to death. I got a few mil, but not all of them rich. What good is the bread if my is broke? What good is first class if my can't sit? That's my next mission, that's why I can't quit. Just like LeBron, get my more chips. Just put the rollie right back on my wrist. This watch came from Drizzy, he gave me a gift. Back when the rap game was praying like this. They act like two legends cannot coexist. But I never beef with it for nothing. If I smoke a rapper, it's gonna be legit. It won't be for clout, it won't be for fame. It won't be cause my ain't selling the same. It won't be to sell you my latest little sneakers. It won't be cause some slid in my lane. Everything grows, it's destined to change. I love you little niggas, I'm glad that you came. I hope that you scrape every dollar you gain. I hope you know money won't erase the pain. To the OGs, I'm thanking you now. Was watching you when you was paving the ground. I copied
If you're
your
in the
cadence,
back,
I mirrored
please
your
come
style.
forward
I
for the
studied the
picture.
greats, I'm the greatest right now. If you feel me, you ain't got a choice. I ain't do no promo, still made all that noise. This shit gon' be different. I set my intentions. I promise to slap all that hate out your voice.
If you're in the back, can you please come forward for the picture? I know some of you guys are stuck in rows, so they're gonna do the best. Big smiles, everyone. Say MailChimp.
I just poured something in my Too many in cycle of jail, spending their birthdays inside of a cell. We coming from a long bloodline of trauma. We raised by our mamas, Lord, we gotta heal. We hurting our sisters, the babies as well. We killing our brothers, they poison the well. Distorted self-image, we settle to fail. I'ma make sure that the real gon' prevail.
I got money on me, I got mad, I got diamond dancing, you see the spag, get on this bus, need your ghetto bag, dog, yo the dog, I got money on me, I got mad, I got diamond dancing, you see the spag, get on this bus, need your ghetto bag, dog, yo the dog, I hate you played your people, boy you down bad. I just got a 20 pounds of gang. That shit did the stash. That shit went too fast. Free that, pull up in the MA. If you tryna get that free, no print that. Dog game, to let my old click all smash. When you come and score that dope for me, I want all cash. MJ, I'm all in, Pat, call that. When I should stall game, I don't do no tall game. Turn up on your dog.
Test. Everyone. At 2 o'clock, please return back to the room. Please feel free to leave your items here. At 2 o'clock, the next session will begin with Microsoft and LinkedIn. 2 p.m. Thank you.
I used to football up, but now I like a friend, so I hit her in the DM. I hit that by PM, you afraid you know it. I get the check and blow it. They be talking about it, they ain't making no. My little dog, I'm gonna flash on her. My little dog, buy a drink without no cellar. I ain't the type of nigga, boy you got me wrong. That wrong gun show, I can, I turn up on your dog. Thank you, all that. Fine as hell, ain't got no cash. Nigga fall back, yo the dog. I got money on, I got mad, I got diamond dancing. You see the spag, get on this bus, need your ghetto bag, dog. Yo the dog. I got money on, I got mad, I got diamond dancing. You see the spag, get on this bus. Top with an eater, 2-seater. You wanna fuck my AP? New freezer. I woke up thinking about bands. Hop over jet to a check when I land. My bitch too foreign in the visa. I don't need her. Pull a drop top with an eater, 2-seater. You wanna fuck my AP? New freezer. I woke up thinking about bands. Hop over jet to a check when I land. Ooh, money way. Diamonds, flexing. I woke up rich, spin the grip on the neck. I put the plug on 3-way. Maserati go speed race. Drop a baby on her face. More ice facing this way. We put the world on the wave. Don't give up cause I'm paid. More act in a lemonade. Pharmacy knowing my name. I'm there because she bougie. She took my dick in a movie. Trap jumping like 2-3. She a foreign real free. My bitch 2 foreign in the visa. I don't need her. Pull a drop top with an eater, 2-seater. You wanna fuck my AP? New freezer. I woke up thinking about bands. Hop over jet to a check when I land. My bitch 2 foreign in the visa. I don't need her. Pull a drop top with an eater, 2-seater. You wanna fuck my AP? New freezer. I woke up thinking about bands. Hop over jet to a check when I land. Ooh, big shot. Hold up, wait. Anybody inside? Outside? Cocaine white body look like gin tops. Rule of the day, get a view every day, get a put a day by the pool every day, get a click with a play, give a jewel every day. I never sleep, I gotta eat, I gotta dance. I merely rap when I get that advance. How can I shop with like 64 M's? Talking on top about business again. He want a lot with new Bentleys again. I want some top from like 2 sets of twins. Twin, friends, yeah, yeah. Hey, where your friends, yeah, yeah. Hold up, switch. Hold up. She won't in, yeah, yeah. Parliament, falling in bundles of flowers like Parliament. Never know, big dog like ours. Oh, nigga, pull a drop top with a eater. 2-seater, new wanna put my AP. New freezer, I won't go think about bands. Hop over just to a check when I land. Oh, nigga, pull a drop top with a eater. 2-seater, new wanna put my well, let's get to the business. All you boys some snitches and y'all trying to take my riches. Your girl grant my wishes. She